Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First, coming to you live from Miami Beach, where we have been all week long getting ready for Super Bowl 54. Now, just 2 short days away, we have had absolutely perfect weather this week, and we're hoping for another glorious day today. I'm Jen Wolfe, this is Nick Wright. We're hanging out with Doug Gottlieb and Brian Westbrook, and an absolutely lit up, fantastic crowd behind us, joining us all morning long.
One issue with the crowd, though. We have a masked man behind us, or a helmeted man. He's got a visor. They would have thrown Odell off the field if he was wearing a visor like this. That is not what they would have done. He's right in my blind spot. I don't even know who he is.
He doesn't talk. He doesn't use any words. He hasn't said anything.
Could that be Baker Mayfield, who's joining us in just under 3 hours? I don't know who's behind me. It makes me feel a little anxious.
It's all going to depend on if he can go 3 hours without talking. Otherwise, not Baker. Okay. And I say that in the nicest way possible. He's got a lot to say. Boy, we've got a ton of great guests joining us this morning, and we're going to get to all the Super Bowl matchups in a second. But we're going to start this morning with a cryptic Instagram post from Tom Brady.
Just like he wanted us to.
He posted a shot. Give me a second to get it out. He posted a shot either walking in or walking out of the stadium. Brady's football future, this is the shot right there, has been a source of much speculation since he's an impending free agent. Brady says he wants to come back and play football next season. The question is, where? So as you look at this picture, Nick, on the eve of the weekend of the Super Bowl, what does this mean to you?
All right, let's start with what we know from the photograph. We know that's Gillette Stadium. Some internet sleuths have posted great side-by-sides. That bollard on the right is in Gillette Stadium. We know that's Gillette. We also know that Tom Brady is in Miami right now. Gil Brandt, 8 hours ago, tweeted a picture that at the NFL 100 party with Tom and Tom's wonderful wife, Giselle. So Tom, in Miami at the Super Bowl, who has tweeted 3 times in the last 3 weeks, decided, you know, the right time to post, maybe my most cryptic tweet ever, is the Thursday night before the final full media day of Super Bowl week. So the other thing we know is this. Tom wants us talking about this. I don't know if he's walking in or out of the stadium. Now, further internet sleuthing, it does appear he has a watch on his left hand. He wears his watch on his left hand, I should say, which would make it appear he's walking in.
It's a lot of
I don't know if we want to read that much into it. But I know Brady wants us having this conversation. Really, because I think he's continuing to put the pressure on the Patriots. Because the other thing we know is Tom Brady wants to stay a Patriot. In a perfect world, for the right money and the right circumstances, he never wanted to leave. And I think this is him getting another news cycle out of a little panic in Boston. Right before the show started, Brian, I was streaming some local radio in Boston. They are, of course, you think I did a Zapruder film of that picture. You see what they're doing up there. And so it is Tom Brady exerting a little bit more leverage, a little bit more influence, and having a bit of a look at me moment as he's trying to figure out what the next chapter of his football story is going to be.
And I think you're absolutely right. Since 2014, the Patriots have they've won the Super Bowl every other year, right? And so, of course, they're always in the news cycle. The big story this season is this Tom Brady's last season in New England? Is the dynasty over in New England? So it's all been kind of a negative spin for everything in New England. And so, of course, Tom Brady wants to be back in the news because now at this point, they're talking about the 49ers and their whiz kid, Kyle Shanahan, as their offensive coordinator and head coach. And Patrick Mahomes, the NFL has moved on past Tom Brady. And, of course, he wants to be back in the news cycle. And to me, this is the best way to do it. I'm making a statement, but I'm not really saying anything. That's the Tom Brady way. That sounds like exactly what Tom Brady would do.
Doug, you think this was as calculated as these guys seem to think it was?
No.
I didn't think he did.
I do not. I do not think a guy, I think it's the Yanni or Laurel of this Super Bowl. Yanni. Which was it, Yanni? I think it was both, wasn't it?
It was both.
Right? And then there was the dresses. There was the yellow or the blue. Gold or blue.
There was the swing set or the swinging forward.
So there's a little bit of the Rorschach test in there, too. You see what you want to see. You imagine what you want to imagine. But Greg Olsen left the Carolina Panthers yesterday. That just so happened to happen on the same day. They need a tight end. You can't play in New England if you're a dummy. Like, dude, he's coming back. That's what he's doing. This is his Wolf of Wall Street meme, right? That I'm not going anywhere. I don't think there really is the room for negotiation that he thinks there is or that we think there is. I've talked to people in the league. There's a bunch of people reaching out saying they don't know what he wants to do. That's because he's coming back. Josh McDaniels not leaving. You're not spending 20 years in New England just to go play for the Chargers or go play for the Raiders. That's not happening. This is building up to the announcement that he's coming back.
Okay, but the idea that this was not highly premeditated, it is a black and white staged photograph tweeted the Thursday evening before the Super Bowl while he's in Miami with no caption for a guy that barely tweets. Of course this was premeditated. It wasn't
but for what reason though? But for what reason? Do I think it was premeditated? Of course. Like that's a professionally either photoshopped or
I don't think
photographed.
anyone's arguing if it's premeditated. Was it a calculated
negotiation topic? I should believe it is.
Was it a message to the Patriots?
It's the build up to I'm coming back.
Okay. All right. That's one way.
Do you really
build up to I'm leaving?
Hold on.
But
the one thing that you're looking for in any negotiation, and this is what Tom Brady is looking forward to, free agency negotiations, is you want leverage. And that's what he's trying to create. He's trying to create a situation where the New England Patriots need to bring him back. And I actually believe that they probably do. But he's trying to provide leverage in this situation with these types of messages and pictures.
That's not leverage. Leverage is offers, years and money.
But you can't get that yet.
Okay, you can or you can't. The idea that he has to make a decision really before free agency, right? The Pats can't go bring in other quarterbacks, and he can't really look around. It's not really the way you can do it. Right? Like,
I think that's what the Patriots want, and I think this is Brady further saying, you guys are trying to, through media leaks, saying, I have a deadline before my actual deadline to make a decision, and this is, I want you guys to hear in Boston today, the fans, their reaction to another sign I might be leaving, and the abject panic that will cause.
Okay, so again, you have to give me the logical destination where he could go.
Okay, there's a half dozen that we could argue about.
No, there's not a half dozen. There's two.
Okay, there's the Chargers, there's the Titans,
He's not going to Tennessee.
Okay, well you can't. Okay, you can ask for logical destinations and then just flippantly say he's not going there. That's fine.
Do you think that's on brand for Tom Brady to go play in Nashville, Tennessee?
No, none of it's on brand for Tom Brady. But you know what's also not on brand for Tom Brady, who's been one of the most selfless, greatest team sport athletes and greatest NFL ambassadors ever? This
hijacking the limelight.
Listen, he's allowed to do whatever he wants. This is a selfish move. You've got two quarterbacks in this football game. One is the next great quarterback of this league. The other, your former understudy. This is their moment. The lead story on this show and all the shows today should be about one of them or both of them. And instead it's about a guy who hasn't played football in 3 weeks, who's been in 9 of these things. Not because there was a leak, not because there was a report, not because of something outside of his control, because he said, I'm putting this out there. And now maybe this ends up, I had to put it out here because the whole thing's a gag, because this is actually part of a Super Bowl commercial, because this is actually part of a marketing thing. To me, that'll make it even worse. Like, to take the spotlight away. If the first NBA Finals without LeBron in a decade, he, the night before a Game 7, tweets something about a pending free agency decision, he would be annihilated for it, and rightfully so. And Brady has earned so many benefits of the doubt. This is more of a me move than we typically see from Tom.
When the Patriots didn't sign Tom Brady to the long contract, and that day he put his house on the market, his trainer did as well. There's a reason for that. Tom Brady doesn't do anything, so of course it's calculated. I just think, in my opinion, he wants to put more of the onus on the Patriots to say, hey, we don't want that guy, opposed to Tom Brady and his camp saying, I don't want to be in New England, because I think it's apparent that he does.
I think the best way to negotiate that way is to go to the Raiders, is to go take his visits as LeBron took his visits. You pointed out he's been selfless, he's been a great leader, he's been fairly egoless in his negotiations, so you build up all of that equity for 20 years, and now on the brink of the Super Bowl, now you have a selfish move? I don't think so. I think this is just generating momentum towards the announcement that he's coming back.
Just very, very quickly, you're totally right. The best way to generate leverage is to make those moves, is to take those visits. The problem is the Patriots are telling anyone that'll listen that we need your decision before you're allowed to take any visits. They are telling him, we need your decision before free agency opens. Now, there might be able to be back channel, tampering type things, but Tom Brady can't go visit with a team, see a facility, meet a coach, meet an owner until the middle of March. Patriots are saying we need your decision for the middle of March, and I don't think Tom Brady's going to abide that. In that regard, I support him 1,000%. Posting this on the day he did, I think is poor form.
Well, if the goal was to steal the spotlight on the Friday before the Super Bowl,
that's a watch. That's his left hand. He's walking towards the stadium.
It would be a great commercial. I think you're right about that. It would be a great commercial.
TurboTax is here to help this tax season by making tax filing easier for you. They've made it their mission to give you all the tools and advice you need to get your taxes done with confidence, like making uploading your W-2 as easy as taking a picture. Just use your phone or tablet to simply snap a picture of your W-2, then watch your information appear in the right place in your tax return. You can be sure you're filing your taxes correctly while at the same time making sure you're getting the best possible refund. TurboTax. All people are tax people.
back here at First Things First, we are just minutes away from full sunrise, gorgeous Miami Beach, and we are just, like I said, 2 days away from the biggest football game of the season. Now joining us, a very special guest, Buffalo Bills running back and Miami Hurricane Frank Gore is with us. Welcome to the show, Frank. Welcome home. How does it feel to be here and have all your closest friends here in your hometown?
I feel great, man. I'm happy. I'm home chilling and, can't wait to the Super Bowl.
And you're part of it being special, being here. It allows you to do something you really enjoy with the kickoff to rebuild an annual event. It's what brings you here. So before we get to football, tell us about it and why it's important to you.
Well, we doing Lowe's and we're building together, going down to my neighborhood where I grew up. We're building 9 homes today, and I'm very excited. 200 people gonna be there, and I get to see some of my old neighbors. So I'm very excited, and I'm gonna have fun with it today.
That's awesome.
We spent the commercial break kind of just poking fun, but also complimenting your longevity and how you've been able to do it. I asked apparently the silly question, how do you know when it's over? And you guys all laughed at me because you're not even close to it. You're 36 years old. Give us a little bit of what's the secret sauce to how you've been able to do this and stay relatively unscathed?
First, I gotta say, that man up above, also hard work. I always working hard in all season, and I love to stay around young guys at my position. They still keep you young. Like now, last all season, I worked out with my man Devin Singletary, another young guy who got bright future in the NFL.
I played with Frank for a year in San Francisco, the hardest working man that I've ever seen before. And listen, he would go a game and he would have 30 carries, and I would see Frank the next morning, bright and early, lifting weights, squatting, running sprints, and that's the key to his longevity. That's why he's played so long, and the love for the game. He knows his game inside and out better than any running back I've played with. But the question for you is, you see what Kyle Shanahan is doing with that offense. You've seen how the offense is really centered around the running backs and their ability to power run inside and outside zone. What type of numbers would you put up in an offense like this?
Man, it would have been crazy, because it's so spaced out, man. And Kyle Shanahan do a great job with his players, put them in a great position. I know it would have been a lot of numbers, though. It would have been great.
I got 2 questions for you. First of all, what's he like as a teammate? Give us a Brian Westbrook story that we otherwise wouldn't know.
Well, when he got there, I'm younger than him, but I always looked up to him because what type of I love looking up to great bats. And once he got in the locker room and got in the practice field, I'm already was like, this man coming to take my spot. I can't let him do that. But we got, he told me, he was like, hey, I'm just coming here to help you. I respect you. And I said I also respect him. So every day, he'll tell me little small details. And I used to ask him, I used to always ask him a lot of questions about defenses and everything. Very smart player. So
you mentioned you look up to great backs. We now have the vast majority of the greatest backs in NFL history looking up to you in the all-time rushing yard standings. You've run for more yards than Barry Sanders. There's only 2 people in NFL history who have had more rushing yards than you. I know you were part of an all-time great Miami Hurricanes football team, but you're also a guy who, before you got to the pros, had a lot of injuries, major injuries.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had high expectations. Could you ever have imagined in your wildest dreams being over 15,000 career rushing yards?
No, especially like you said, my injuries. Coming out of college, having 2 ACLs, and it was very tough for me to get to the NFL. But I've been blessed, man, and like B West, hey man, I try my best to go out there every day and make it like it's my last. So I won't leave no doubts about my game.
Frankie.
One of the things I loved about Frank is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Of course, he was a power runner and he was fast. But the other thing that every running back has to have is the ability to block and be physical and block. And so one of the challenges for the Chiefs this weekend is going to be, how do you block the front four of the 49ers? Well, what do you see from the running backs from the Chiefs and their ability towards handle the blitz and the rush from the 49ers?
Well, I would say I think they will have to do more chip blocks, because that pass rush is crazy, man. And they got so many, like they can rotate, keep fresh guys on it. So I think the running back's gonna have to help the linemen that like chip blocks to then get out to their route. If they don't, I think them boys, it's gonna be a long day.
Look, you know that team well. You spent 10 seasons in San Francisco. Talk about what it would mean for the guys that are there that you remember for the whole city to win a title.
It'd be great. It's been 5 years they've been down. Jed, I still talk to him today. He like family to me, and man, I would love to see the 49ers win and to bring that the ring back to the Bay.
For you mentioned, you guys were talking about what it would be like to play in the Kyle Shanahan system. Well, first of all, let me start here. Are you going to play next year?
Well, I'm gonna wait to March and see if any teams want me. I still feel good, but the business of the NFL. When you get older, they want to go younger. But I think that I showed God that I still can play the game of football. And if a team want me, I'm telling you, I would love to play again.
Okay, all right. So you're not retiring. You'd love to play again. I know a team that maybe could be in the market for a short yardage back, a team whose offense might be pretty fun to play in as well, and that's Kansas City. Could you? What would your game look like in a system where the defense, Andy Reid's system, where the defenses are so concerned about the outside passing attack?
It'd be great. I never had that in my career yet. Like with guys with so much speed outside. Like I said in San Fran, we was more like a physical team.
Yeah.
We had good receivers, but not speedsters. Man, when you got guys outside, it just make the box lighter for the running backs and make it a little more easy. But man, I'll probably go crazy. They'll think I'm 25.
Frank, you already basically have the stats, because I think as far as a running back, you have to have at least 12,000 yards to be mentioned in the Hall of Fame. And you've already surpassed that. But what would it mean to you to be able to get into the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio?
It'd be great, man. Just because what I had to deal with to get to the NFL, and just everybody down me saying I won't be in the league about 3 years, and now look 15 years now, and like you say, I got 15,000 yards, so I'd be happy. I'd be real happy.
Frank, who's going to win on Sunday?
I'll say San Fran.
Why?
Just because I don't think a team who like to throw the ball can beat a team with so much pass rush. We get out the quarterback, man. I love Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback, but that pass rush, man, when you could rotate guys, O-line getting tired, I think San Fran can get it, man.
Real quick before you go, for the guys' first Super Bowl week, we're now, 59 hours until kickoff. You know this city. You know how great this city can be and some of the temptations of this city. What are you telling them?
Stay inside.
Where not to
Don't even go outside.
Study your book. You just do what you do during a regular game. Just study, know your opponent, man. And, enjoy this time, because take advantage of it. Take advantage of it, because man, you never know, when you get back here.
Frank, thanks so much for hanging out with us
and
today.
Congratulations. And
great season. All the best to you.
You're already a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
You're already a Hall of Famer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you never know who's going to stop by when you're down at the site of the Super Bowl. Look who just popped into our studio, Hall of Famer Terrell Owens. T.O., thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Been a good Super Bowl week for you so far?
Yeah, so far so good.
T.O. is the absolute man. I just remember playing in this game here. We were in Jacksonville, Florida, which is a whole different world than Miami. And T, all week long, he's in this hyperbaric chamber, not really practicing at all. Didn't look like he could walk at all. In the game, he comes out, 9 catches, 122 yards, a straight beast. And it was just amazing to witness as a player on the same team. But last week, we were on the show last week, and we went back 15 years. And, of course, Donovan shot out a couple of messages as far as a video, and you guys are kind of going back and forth. And I kind of went through it, but tell us your experience as far as your thought process after seeing what Donovan said in this video, and then you guys going back and forth last week.
I didn't really know what to think of it. Everyone started texting me about the video and the untold stories bit and the clip. And so for me, as you said, it took everybody back 15 plus years, and I didn't know where it came from. But I just didn't like the part to say that I prevented us or you guys from going to a second Super Bowl when the year before, leading up to the Super Bowl, he said he didn't need me. So, you went through it, you saw what was going on in the locker room, and so at the end of the day, I'm secure in who I am and the character and what I presented in that locker room. All the speculation as to what went on, but you saw it yourself. You know that I was a good teammate, and so that's what I hang my hat on versus, how Donovan can be. He can be one way in front of the camera, and off the camera, he's a different guy.
What was the thing, and I think we went through a couple of different things trying to get you guys together and, dinners. We always have dinner on Saturday night. What was the big outlying factor in your mind as to why you guys couldn't get back together and kind of mend the relationship? Because we see teams now, you have to have a running back. We had a running back in myself that was okay. We had a quarterback that was great and a wide receiver that is great, Hall of Famer, and yourself. What was the thing that didn't allow you guys to get back together that the end of the 2004 season going into 2005?
Well, it was a couple of things. I think throughout the course of the season, I think when I first got there, you saw how the city embraced me. I think he still had some resentment at the fact that when he got drafted, Ricky Williams was there. Everybody wanted Ricky Williams. It wasn't that same embracement. And so when I got there, it was the stadium, T.O. Every week it was something about me, and I think it's almost like I took some of his shine away. That wasn't what I was brought there to do. I was brought there to do it ultimately what we went to do, and that was get to the Super Bowl. There was a lot of things that people brought to my attention that, like I said, unbeknownst to me, I was just, I guess, oblivious to. Again, like I said, whether he was jealous or whatever the case may have been, I didn't know any of these things because they were brought to me. I just came in there to do what they brought me there to do, to help you guys get past the 4 NFC championship games that you had gotten to prior, and try to help you do what I could to get to the Super Bowl.
One more on this before we move on. It's now been 15 years, right? And I know in your defense, you didn't bring this up. You're right. You didn't. And so sometimes, and I've told you this, sometimes you get criticized fairly, sometimes you get criticized unfairly. This was one, you didn't make this the conversation. But since it's been 15 years, and Donovan said his piece, you've said your piece, Bryant seems to be a willing moderator. If you guys could all sit down and bury the hatchet, and so when you guys have a reunion, there's none of that uneasiness, would that be something you'd want to do?
Well, I think, as he said, he mentioned like some of the things that happened or transpired during the course of that season. There was, like I said, there was an incident in the huddle where, I just came back to the huddle. We ran a play all during the course of the week. He missed me. He didn't throw the ball, and I told him I was open. And he cursed me out. And I'd never been cursed out by a teammate before. I mean, to the point like, my grandmother, nobody would want to be cursed out like that. And so from that standpoint, I felt like I was disrespected to the nth degree. I addressed the issue after the game, man to man, and then from that point on, we just kind of went our separate ways. But at this point in time, like I said, I can forgive, but I never forget. You always kind of know how people make you feel, and all this time when I was there in Philadelphia and when I left, everybody thought that I was still the problem. I was always a problem in the locker room, and it just basically compounded from one team to another. Anything little, minute that happened, I was blamed. I was the scapegoat.
All right, let's take a turn and talk some Super Bowl. The game obviously means a ton to so many of the players, but we've been focusing a lot this week on Andy Reid, a guy you played for.
Absolutely.
And how, man, when we hear all these players talk in that Kansas City Chiefs locker room, it means a lot to me, but it would mean so much to Andy Reid. Right. We want to win this for him. How special is the moment to get back here for him, and how important would this win be for him?
Awesome. I mean, I had one of the best times of my career playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. I marveled at the opportunity to play with guys like Westbrook, Donovan, knowing what they had on the defensive side of the ball with Trotter, Brian Dawkins, Lito Shepherd. Well, I knew when I went to the Philadelphia Eagles, I knew that we had an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. When you think about the cerebral mind, the offensive mind of Andy Reid, he utilized weapons like myself, Westbrook, to the best of our abilities. And when you think about going into this game, he's going to be prepared. Whether they win or not, that remains to be seen.
Brian's told us a little bit from his perspective on one yours. Why do players love Andy Reid so much? Like, he gets criticized in the media for different things, but his players, to a man, former or current, seem to love him.
And you can say he's a player's coach. He is, but he earns and he demands respect. It's a mutual thing. You're gonna get whatever you see from Andy, you want to return it. And so it's like that reciprocity. And so for me, it was just like I knew what I was getting when I got there. He was straight up when I went into the meeting. When I talked to him on the phone prior to getting there, he's a no holds barred type of guy, no nonsense type of guy. And so for me, I went in there and I wanted to just play lights out. And I think anybody that plays with him, they understand that and they want to give their all.
So you know Andy's offense better than anyone. I mean, it's a true student of the game. I'm talking about knew every position down to a T, can tell everybody what to do. But now they're facing the defense, one of that they haven't faced all season long. A great pass rush, also a very good secondary. What would you do if you're on the offensive side with the Kansas City Chiefs versus this defense to try to have some success?
You know what he's going to do. I saw you do it all the time. He's going to, with that defensive front, that pass rush and how fast they get up the field, he's going to probably screen them to death. They're going to try to keep them honest. But who knows? Andy's always going to throw some wrinkles somewhere during in the game. And I saw a headline where and that's how it was when we played. We felt like every play that was called, we could score anywhere on the field. And that's how I felt. He made me feel like a superhuman when I was out there playing football. And with the abilities that I had, being able to play in the West Coast type of offense, moving around multiple positions, going across the motion, stationary, outside, inside. I mean, genius, offensive genius.
You guys have both mentioned, we've talked all week, the San Francisco defensive front against the Chiefs offensive line, the pass rush against the passing attack. We've spent so much time on that, I feel like we've left out or not discussed enough a really interesting matchup, which is, I believe, future Hall of Fame corner Richard Sherman and the fastest player maybe in league history. Now, I understand that they don't play, man-to-man cat coverage. They play a cover 3 zone typically, but can't really play zone against the Chiefs. There probably is going to be some instances where they're forced to break tendencies, play man. If Sherm gets lined up on Tyreek Hill, who do you think has the edge in that matchup?
Tyreek Hill. Speed kills. This is something, I don't know if this is something that Richard Sherman has prepared for, but I think ideally he knows that he has a tough task at hand. Will he be ready and accept that challenge? Absolutely. But it's not going to be a mano-a-mano type of thing. Robert Saleh, that defensive staff, trust me, they're preparing just like the Chiefs are preparing.
Let me just follow up on that. As a receiver, if you are playing the type of defense the Niners typically play, the same similar to Seattle, that cover 3 zone, what are the things it takes away from you as a receiver, and what are the things you can take advantage of with it? Because that's going to be the Chiefs' plan of attack.
Well, the thing, just stretching the field. Again, the thing, if I'm Andy Reid and I know Andy Reid, he's gonna go at Richard Sherman. He's not gonna be afraid to go at him. If you want man-to-man coverage, and I think if Richard Sherman welcomes that, then he's gonna have to be ready for that task, and he's gonna have a tall task in Tyreek Hill, because that speed that he has and his ability to make plays, cut on a dime, and you saw last week one big play on Richard Sherman, but you saw it was a little struggle there. So if there's something that they see that they can take advantage of, then they may well do that.
Look, despite that speed and despite that high-powered offense that Andy Reid is running there, Patrick Mahomes is running there in Kansas City, we know the defense wins championships. Is this the exception, though, when you see how good that offense has been in Kansas City this game?
Yes and no. But again, I'm a firm believer in defense wins championships. This is not a game that we're going to see Jimmy Garoppolo throw 8 passes. I'm assuring that. But Kansas City, when you have a dynamic guy like Patrick Mahomes, he's a special guy. He reminds, like I said, we talked about Donovan. I mean, he's a special guy. Donovan moved out of the pocket, makes some things happen with his feet and his arms. Patrick Mahomes is that guy.
So you talked about Jimmy G, and I think if you the Chiefs, you want to turn it into a quarterback conversation, Mahomes versus Jimmy G. What's your confidence level in what Jimmy G can do if the Chiefs find a way to stop the run? Can Jimmy G win this game with his arm? And of course, he only threw 8 passes in the last game.
Well, I mean, very pedestrian by him, but if you look at how the Baltimore Ravens won some years ago, they didn't have a great quarterback, when they had Trent Dilfer, but that defensive front, that defensive linebacker and Ray Lewis, they won that game. But this is not something that's going to be eerily similar. Jimmy G, this is going to have to be a statement game. We're going to have to see something out of Jimmy G that everybody's been expecting that we haven't seen as of late.
The last time you and I spoke, to take a quick turn from the Super Bowl, you called my radio show about Jason Garrett. Remember?
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys. He's obviously no longer the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Your thoughts on what that offense, Dak and Zeke, assume Amari's back, will look like under Mike McCarthy, potential improvements, because I know you weren't necessarily inspired by what they were doing under Jason.
I think the team as a whole will be inspired just by the hiring and just a newness, a fresh face. But if you think about what the resume in which Mike McCarthy is coming with, he's won Super Bowl. He's had the makeup of what he has there with the Dallas Cowboys now. You think about Dak, Zeke, and the pieces that they have on defense. They have a chance. I mean, it's one thing to have it on paper, but you got to produce and you got to play with it.
Tio, we want to tell our audience what you've been working on. You've been keeping busy with a clothing line. You also have a podcast. Tell us where we can find that, listen to your podcast.
On Himalaya app or wherever you get your podcast. A good friend of mine, Matthew Hatcher, who played for the Vikings for a number of years and the Jets. We have a podcast called Get Your Popcorn Ready with Tio and Hatch. And I have a clothing line coming out. It's called Prototype 81. And can't leave here without mentioning Kobe Bryant. You talk about desire, dedication, and discipline, and he's made an impact across the world. That's what my clothing line embodies. And I kind of reflected back on my career, and that's what I want to represent.
Is that why you lost so much weight?
This is my model look.
Oh,
You guys saw me when I played with B.
He still can go do it. Right now, I can tell you, he can go out there on this little set over here and run a 4.3 right now.
We haven't had an NFL game since the conference championships on January 19th. So to say we can't wait for the Super Bowl on Sunday might be a bit of an understatement. Coverage starts Sunday 1 p.m. on Fox. We've been previewing the matchup all week long live from Miami, but it is time to go on record. Nick Wright, who wins this game?
The Kansas City Chiefs win this game 34-26. I appreciate that cheer. My Chiefs fans behind me. We have never seen the Chiefs offense truly stymied by any defense if Patrick Mahomes went into the game healthy and if Tyreek Hill was on the field. Last I checked, Patrick Mahomes is healthy. Tyreek Hill is going to be on the field. In fact, the Super Bowl will be the single healthiest the Chiefs have been all year long, even healthier than week 1 when they had some offseason injuries coming into it. The only contributor from the regular season who will not play in the Super Bowl is Juan Thornhill, who got hurt in week 17 of the year, the rookie safety. If the Niners are going to win, they are going to have to get into the 30s, not the 20s, the 30s. I say 34-26 Chiefs.
I'm going 35-30 the 49ers. And there's a couple of different reasons why, but the biggest reason is that they have multiple ways to win the game. First of all, offensively, they can run the football successfully, and they can do that. They'll continue to run, and there'll be another 8-pass games by Jimmy Garoppolo. But I also believe that Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G can find a way to throw the ball successfully. And we're talking about one of the best game planners in the game in Kyle Shanahan. He uses shifts and motions to kind of fool the defense, make their eyes, kind of be messed up and not on what they should be looking at. And I just think that Jimmy G can get it done. The other way they can win the game is a defensive side of the ball. 27 takeaways in the season, 6th best in the NFL. They're the 2nd best team in pressuring the quarterback. They could win on the defensive side of the ball. In all the games that the Kansas City Chiefs lost, they had a turnover, either a fumble or an interception. I think that's something that the 49ers are going to look towards getting, and they're going to try to get the possessions down from 12 to 8. If they make the Kansas City Chiefs only have 8 possessions because they're running the ball well, the 49ers have a great chance of winning this football.
We've been following this thing a long time, right? Like my whole childhood, I remember watching blowout Super Bowls. And then as we've gotten older, we had the first time we saw Tom Brady, it wasn't really about Tom Brady. It was about the greatest show on turf, right? Against the Patriots defense that wasn't introduced individually. Remember, that was the first time ever. Here are the New England Patriots, and they all come running out, and TV's scrambling because they had all this time built up. From that game, the modern NFL was kind of, the old cliche is in fact true. Defense wins championships, okay? It is in fact darkest before the dawn. The tough do get going when the going gets tough. And whether it was Seattle and New York against the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning and 50 touchdowns, or the New York Giants against Tom Brady's undefeated team, when that front four can get into the backfield, there's very little you can do, because eventually they will rattle even the best quarterbacks, even the Bradys, Aaron Rodgers looked scared. Okay, Aaron freaking Rodgers looked scared, looked completely out of sorts in the first half against this Niners defense. I believe they win. I believe they win because they acquired Emmanuel Sanders, great midseason pickup. I believe they win because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt last year, which allowed them to draft Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel, 2 game changers. They are the only team in the NFL with the type of speed the Kansas City Chiefs have and the front four to get after Pat Mahomes. He won't be terrible, but he won't be perfect, and you got to be perfect to beat this Niners team.
I mean, defense wins championships except for the years it doesn't, right? Like when Atlanta and New England, and Atlanta's great offense jumps out 28-3, and the New England's great offense comes all the way back, or Philly and New England, where there was no defense seemingly played in that entire game, or in the year that Aaron Rodgers actually did win the Super Bowl when they were playing a superior defensive team in Pittsburgh, and yet Aaron Rodgers gets them out 21-0 because of the overwhelming offensive performance on that side of the football. But the one other element here that you mentioned, the 2001 Patriots, and you're right, that game wasn't about Tom Brady in real time. We now look back to it as the beginning of his legend, because he leads them on the drive to get the field goal. Sometimes, not always, sometimes sports works in almost perfect story arcs. Tom Brady's career, now that we know how it's closing, it's perfect it started like that. Patrick Mahomes has been the best player in NFL history through 35 games. Nobody's ever had a better at the quarterback position opening 35 games. His 36th game is not then a Super Bowl loss to Jimmy Garoppolo. His 36th game is being the best player on the field, having a near-perfect performance, continuing the near-perfect performance he had in these playoffs, leading his team to a championship. At least that's the way I see this.
It's funny, though. You point out those games. Let's go back to Atlanta. Tom Brady was rattled. The Falcons should have won that game, and it was because the Falcons could get to Tom Brady without blitzing people, right? That was one of the games you read. Even the Philadelphia game, okay? No, the Eagles did not make the Patriots punt, but they did turn the football over, including that's how they stopped the Patriots on the Patriots' last drive. Again, I'm not saying that this is, this is one of those old school Niners runs roughshod over the Chargers in the Super Bowl. I'm saying in a game in which all of us truthfully don't know, because these are two probably the best teams in football, right? The best offense against the best defense, and I think the Chiefs have an improved defense, and the Niners have an interesting offense that has some pieces. We just don't have enough a sample size yet on Jimmy G to know exactly what he has. I'm saying that you get to the quarterback one time at the opportune time, and I think that's how this Niner team is built.
Do you guys want to know who I'm picking and why?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm picking the Chiefs, but let me tell you why.
Okay.
Can anyone even fathom what my week will be like sitting next to him if the Chiefs don't win?
Oh, Jenna.
What my family life is like.
So you're rooting for it because you have such deep felt care and respect for me?
No, because I can't take any more stress. My kids have been sick. I got a lot going on at home, and to have to come to work and babysit you is going to be more than I can handle, frankly. Now I forgot who I picked, but I'm sure it was the right pick. They just want you to know what I'm going to echo. You smell tremendous. It's probably, I'm sure you would too, but he's got the Old Spice shirt on.
Yeah.
So why don't we start there? You were with Old Spice here.
Yeah, so Old Spice just dropped their Ultra Smooth line. It's not only a body wash, but it's a deodorant too, and it's available. So I brought you guys some. You're allowed to wear it too.
I'm allowed to wear it.
Needs to wear it.
Yeah, she doesn't need to.
You do not need to.
No,
and it's available at Walgreens, so anybody who wants to smell fresh, low key, check it out.
Maybe if you wear this, I will walk in every morning and say,
not necessary.
You smell tremendous.
Instead of talking about me, let's talk about Christian. 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing. You were this close last year in the 2018 season. Didn't quite get it. You know the full list of people who've done it, right?
Yep.
Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, you.
Yep.
You're top 10 pick. You're a superstar at Stanford. Could have won the Heisman. Even with those expectations, did you anticipate this level of accomplishment this early in your career?
You know, it's tough. You never really anticipate a whole lot, you know, and I definitely set individual goals and I have visions for myself and, you know, I have a high standard for myself. But I think once I started taking it, you know, one day at a time, it became easier for me. I had more fun with the game. I had more fun with my training and taking the process one day at a time, you know, one treatment at a time. And after that, it became more fun and started having more success. But at the end of the day, I mean, and you guys know this better than anybody, you know, winning is the most important thing in the world. And you can have all the individual success, but at the end of the season, you know, if your team's not in the playoffs, if your team, you know, didn't have a shot for the Super Bowl, it's, you know, you're a little bit bitter. So, you know, I'm hoping we can turn things around.
Unfortunately, your team didn't get a chance to perform as well as you probably would have wanted this year, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Cam Newton went down with injury. I wonder if a healthy Cam Newton if we could see the Cam Newton of old back again if he is to get healthy, because there was a lot of criticism about Cam, you know, sort of towards the end of this season, whether he'd even be back, whether you could help another team. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's tough. Injuries are a tough reality of the game, and you know, Cam's a guy who, when healthy, is one of the most dynamic players in the league. And for me, coming in as a rookie, knowing that he was going to be my quarterback, I was extremely excited. And we've seen what he's done when he's healthy. I mean, he'll fight for every single inch, you know, even when he's hurt. He's a heck of a teammate, good leader, very unique personality. But you know, when you really get to know him, when you really get to play with him, you see all the extra stuff he does. And for me, when you see a quarterback, you know, fighting for an extra 3-4 yards when guys are teeing off on him, jumping over piles in the end zone, that's something you can rally behind. It's something you can really respect. You know, somebody who's fighting for every inch to score a touchdown, to get a first down, whatever it may be. So
we're here for Super Bowl week. So and obviously the 49ers and Chiefs are playing. You guys played the 49ers. I believe they held y'all to what, 13 points?
Yep.
What's the hardest thing about facing this defense?
Yeah, they got such a good D line, and there's a difference between having a good D line who has a bunch of good pass rushers and a good D line who has a bunch of good run stoppers. And when you look at them, they have both, and they have two of the best, in my opinion, when I've played so far, two of the best linebackers I've played this year, Quan Alexander and Fred Warner, and they play so well together. They rally to the football. I think when you look at team speed as a defense, as me as a running back, I look at how do they run to the ball, not just in the first quarter, in the fourth quarter, and then Richard Sherman leading that secondary. Not only do you have a heck of a player, but you have somebody who's been there and done that, and communication is everything. And so you can see the way they communicate, and obviously it's going to be a heck of a test with an offense like the Chiefs and what Pat Mahomes has done and Andy Reid has done. So I'm excited for the game, but I think the biggest thing about that defense is the D-line. It starts up front, so that'll be a huge test when you have a D-line who can stop the run and rush the passer.
You were an offense unto yourself, really, for the Panthers this year, and part of last year, particularly once Cam went out. But still, even with that responsibility, there are times you got to get in there, block, you got to chip a blitzing linebacker. For the Chiefs, that's going to be almost all they ask their running backs to do: catch screen passes and help with the blitz pickup. As a young player, Chiefs have a young running back as well. How difficult is that? What are the strategies for it when some monster like this guy's coming in hot and it's only between you and him and the quarterback?
Yeah. I played against James one time in the preseason. I was actually lucky. I don't even think I was in at the same time as him. So very fortunate you retired. But no, it's, I mean, as a running back who, likes to get out on my check down and get the ball, it's tough because the whole week you're preaching, look, if nobody's blitzing, you chip that guy. And so when we played, the Niners, it was, if I know they're not blitzing, I'm going to 97, and I'm chipping Bosa, and I have to be very, very cognizant of that at all times. And when you are an offense like the Chiefs, who relies on your checkdowns, you rely on your backs, getting open and making somebody miss in the passing game, it becomes tough because it's a whole nother element of the game that you have to take into consideration. And it does a lot to an offense, and obviously helps the defense out.
Listen, man, you got a real famous dad, you know what I'm saying? What was it like growing up around all those guys?
It was a lot of fun. I was very fortunate to have, my mom and dad who did such a good job. I have 3 brothers. I got an older one and 2 younger ones, and everything we did was together. And so we were always competing, always doing stuff with each other. It was 2-on-2 basketball in the yard, knee football, playing out in the snow. And, it was good because they didn't care what we did, but they just cared that we did it 100% and put everything into it. And, I'd like to think I took advantage of using him as an outlet I could lean on.
I'm sure your dad told you just about as much as he could pass along of what to expect when you're actually playing. I'm sure you came to work with him. I'm sure you met the guys. I'm sure you were in the locker room. But now that you're in the NFL, tell me something about the last couple of years that he couldn't prepare you for.
Well, there's so much. The game's changed so much since when he played. He can prepare you. I guess he can prepare your attitude and kind of mold different things on how to approach the game. But for me, I'm my own man, and coming into the league, it's good that I learned from players on my team who have done it right. Guys like Luke Kuechly, guys who set the standard of what it's like to be a pro. And, I was fortunate for that. So I think it's a constant learning process, and it's a constant process to figure out what your formula is, off the field, how you take care of your body, who's going to take care of your body, who you call for advice. And at the end of the day, it's just taking little pieces from everybody and making them, specifically your own.
Couple questions on Luke Kuechly. He's one of the greatest players of his era. He obviously just stepped away from the game. Did you see that coming? And what was your reaction when you saw the video?
Yeah, I didn't see it coming 100%. He had called me the day he said he was going to announce it, and it's bittersweet for me because I want to play with him my whole career. He's a guy who, is a pretty model football player, in my opinion. A guy who works his butt off day in, day out, plays the right way, and somebody who is very easy to look up to as a young player coming in the league. And I didn't really see it coming, but I'm so happy for him. He's a guy who went out on his own terms, and I have the utmost respect for that. He played 8 seasons. He probably had 1 million tackles. So
yeah, he did. He had 1 million tackles.
Yeah, 1 million. That's what he said. So he went out on his own terms, and I couldn't be more happy for him. He's probably hunting and fishing somewhere right now, enjoying.
All right, so big question. Everybody want to know who you got winning.
I hope they both lose. I don't
No draft class of 2017 pride. You would best quarterback, best running back.
I got a lot of buddies on both teams. I root for certain players, but and I'm a fan of the game, so I'll watch and I hope it's a good game. But I'm dead serious. I don't care who wins.
Last one before you go. When you were a little kid running around Broncos facility, did you know then how crazy Shannon Sharpe is? Or you did?
Yeah, absolutely. So
maniac even then.
I would play Power Rangers with him when I was a kid. I was always a Green Power Ranger. I don't know which one he was, but he's been a personality his whole life. I think I was at the game in Foxborough. I couldn't remember, but just from stories I hear, I was so young. I was at the game in Foxborough where he picked the phone up and said, "Call the National Guard. We're killing the Patriots." But he's been a personality his whole life, and it's been good being able to catch up with him throughout the years. And it's funny how things go in full circle.
He talks about how proud he is of you, man. It's really, really impressive. It's really, it's hard. James alluded to it. You get big shoes to follow, and you've more than filled your role. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Man.
Appreciate
Christian,
it.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
Congratulations on an amazing season. Continued success for the next and throughout. And we appreciate you joining us. And thanks again to Old
I got this
Spice.
ready for you, Jenna.
Okay, Nick. That's so.
Just wave it across. Just wave it under her nose.
Just right over here.
Wave it under her nose.
Fantastic audience behind us all week long. And we are now here with Packers superstar running back Aaron Jones. Welcome to the show, Aaron. It's a very warm reception for you. Are you enjoying your time here so far?
I'm loving it. I'm enjoying myself.
We got to start with, you've had quite an impressive breakout season this year. 16 rushing touchdowns, 1,000 yards. What do you think was the key to having it all putting it all together?
I would just say opportunity mixed with the new system. Just getting a chance to get the ball in my hands a little bit more.
Which was a goal of Matt LaFleur's when he came in, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am. And he let me know that, and he stuck to everything he said, and giving me the ball in different ways, using me as a receiver as well. So I'm enjoying myself in the system.
It's guys like Aaron Jones, the reason why people don't want to draft running backs in the first round. It's your fault. They're like, hey, you can get a superstar in the 5th round out of UTEP. I'm curious, when you got drafted in the 5th round and you find out you're going to Green Bay, I think that is an NFL city unlike any other. And for the vast majority of guys drafted there, their first time ever going there is either on the visit or once they're drafted. Your background, though, is a little different. Come from a military family, moved around a handful of times. You lived overseas when you were very young, I think. Do you think that prepared you a little bit to go from El Paso, where you had been for, 8 years or so, to move up to the frozen tundra?
I think so. The military definitely helped me culture-wise, get used to different cultures and adjusting to that. And so when I got up there to Green Bay, I felt like I was able to adjust quick. Just the code was a little bit different from Texas, but other than that, it's been great.
A lot has been made about the window, and that's what football players always talk about, the window, the amount of time you have to actually win. And with Aaron Rodgers getting a little bit older and your team, trying to figure out, especially after the big-time loss in the postseason, how do you feel about the window? Is it still wide open for you guys, or where are you at right now in the progression of that?
Yes, sir. We feel like it's still wide open for us. We feel like we're pretty young in all our skill positions. A-Rod's still young. He's still got a lot of time. So if you look what Brady's doing, he's still got a lot of time. So I'm confident in him.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, as good as he is, why do you think he often gets criticism for his leadership role in that locker room?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great question. My instances from being around him, he's nothing but a leader. He likes to have fun as well, and he's just making sure everybody's up and ready to go. So he just expects you to be on your A game because he knows what everybody else on the field has to do.
So I know Aaron a little bit personally, and I feel like he's a little misunderstood nationally because of some of the criticism Jenna's talking about. Outside of what he does on the field, which is obviously remarkable, what type of guy is he?
Oh, he's a leader. For instance, Aaron is very educated. He's one of the smartest guys I know. So if I see something on Twitter, maybe anything that's going on that I have no clue about, I'll go to him because he knows. And he'll be like, hey, come find me at lunch. We'll talk about it. That's just the kind of guy he is.
Such a good leader. He's actually leading a marching band right outside
I was just going to say, you're the only guest that brought your own marching band with you. He's here, guys. Give us 30 seconds. We'll bring him back.
You guys had a hard time scoring against the 49ers. A lot of teams do. What makes them so tough to score against, and what makes this defense so good?
All 11, they fly around, they swarm to the ball, and then of course, that front four, they get after it, they pin their ears back, and they get after the quarterback, and they're penetrating front, and that messes with the run game a little bit as well.
New head coach this year with you guys, similar system to what they're running in San Francisco, similar coaching tree. What makes that system so beneficial for running backs?
Just the way you're used. You're touching the ball, whether it be outside zone, inside zone, from the gun or from under, and then they're splitting you out wide, using you as weapons in different ways. I've even came in the jet sweep and gotten the ball, so just keeping them guessing. They never know who's getting it and when you're getting it.
So for you guys, you come as close as you did. Brian asked you about the window. I wonder, losing in the NFC Championship game the way you did, if there's one thing more than anything else you feel like on your guys' side of the ball, not defensively, offensively, we need to be better at next year to take the next step, what would it be?
I would just say being more consistent. We came out in the second half and we played kind of our style of football. If we would have been playing that kind of football in the first half and not making mistakes and hurting ourselves, I feel like it would have been a little bit of a different game. But that's not to take anything away from their defense. They have a great defense and they came ready to play.
Just a quick follow-up on something you said earlier, that you had a conversation with Matt LaFleur about getting you more involved, getting the run game more involved in this offense. I think when we were all talking about what Matt LaFleur was going to install in this offense, we were like, okay, it's going to still be Aaron Rodgers at the line, dictating what he wants, reading coverages, and then doing what he wants to do. But it looked like Matt LaFleur made a concerted effort to focus on the run game, to scheme guys open a little bit more, and to maybe make things a little easier for Aaron Rodgers. Tell me just a little bit more about that conversation, and did you believe that when he said it? Because I don't think a lot of people did.
I definitely believed him when he said it. I mean, coaches just don't usually pull you aside and tell you that those kind of things. So he told me that, and he actually told me that in OTAs and when I first met him, and I got time to go back and work on my craft, and he told me that, hey, we like to use our backs in the receiving game. I feel like we can get them mismatches, and he gave me a couple backs to watch, Devontae Freeman, some of the guys he's coached, and great option route runners, and so he gave me that to look upon, and it got me excited, and I knew what I was working with.
You talked about what you guys did as far as getting the running backs involved, and I think for the Chiefs, having their running backs involved more so in the pass protection game against his front four is going to be critical for them to win the football game. But talk about a little bit how the 49ers bring an extra guy. Are they bringing 5? Are they bringing 6 guys? And how the Chiefs running backs are going to have to help Patrick Mahomes sustain himself in the pocket.
Oh, definitely. I mean, protection is going to be a big part of it. I mean, I feel like if they can hold up in protection, that's going to be a big key in the game. And the backs is going to be big because sometimes they won't only bring those 4. They'll bring that 5 or they'll bring that 6 where the back has to step up in protection, or maybe they won't be bringing that 5, or he'll have to step up and chip a DN to help give time and things like that.
Is the best way to attack this aggressive defense is to screen behind him with the running back, trying to get him involved in the screen game just a little bit to slow down the defensive line?
To me, I think so. We ran a screen and we scored on it. We actually ran 2 screens and both positive plays. They were in man coverage, so you kind of just sit there behind the offensive lineman and get lost for a second and then do the rest after that. So I definitely do think the screen game.
People might not remember, but you guys also played the other team in this year's Super Bowl. The Chiefs team was right around the time the Chiefs defense was rounding into form. They really kind of peaked at the end of the year. You guys obviously won that game. Defensively, what are some of the things the Chiefs do well? Who stood out to you when you're watching film leading up to the game of guys you got to look out for in that Chiefs defense?
Definitely the Honey Badger. He's everywhere on that field. He's flying around, whether he's the deep safety or he's playing in the box. I mean, he's everywhere. So he's one of the guys that definitely stood out. But just like San Francisco's defense, those guys fly around, playing with a lot of energy. And also their corners stood out to me too. Willing tacklers, both teams, willing tacklers at corners, and that's something that's big to me in the NFL when corners want to tackle.
You got a pick?
I just want to see a good game.
Okay.
So you don't have a pick.
That's a good no answer for a current player.
Of course it is. Aaron Jones, thanks so much
Congrats,
for hanging
man.
with us.
What a
Congratulations. Okay, we are back here with 2 very special guests. Cleveland Browns superstar Baker Mayfield and Special Olympic superstar Antron Juice Williams. Guys, thanks so much for being with us. Baker, I'll start with you. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are doing to bring more awareness to Special Olympics.
I mean, really in any way possible to bring more awareness to what people like Juice are all about. It's about cultivating not just athletes, but people that help our society, leaders, people that can truly make an impact on our world to help for the better. And so we're just here to spread awareness about Special Olympians and guys like Juice that make an impact and people that truly make a difference.
Juice, what has Baker meant to you? How much has he inspired you?
He inspired me so much. He's a phenomenal athlete. I'm just so proud that he's a part of Special Olympics.
Is there any advice he's given you, or is there anything he's done either in his career or in his personal life that sort of inspired you maybe in that way that you've looked to?
Yes, his perseverance and just the athlete that he is. He's a big inspiration for Special Olympics. We'll be glad to have him as one of our ambassadors.
Baker, is there part of it that goes both ways? Is there stuff that you are inspired by just by watching Juice do what he does and get through sort of what he's been through?
Absolutely. And hearing his story not too long ago, he had a brain stroke and battling through that. He was in a coma for 10 days with a 50% chance to live. And so now that he's back, he's balling, he's living his dream right now. That's having his support and him telling me that, I inspire him means a lot more than he'll ever realize, because he faces challenges every day that truly mean a lot, and they're bigger than we could ever realize.
You going to give some advice to Baker Mayfield on the field for next year?
His Instagram page is Mr. You Won't Outwork Me.
Is it?
Yes.
I love it. We want to wish you all the best. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Baker, we're going to walk you over here. We got a couple other things we want to talk to you about. I'm going to have
Absolutely.
you sit down next to Nick over there.
My God. Good to see you, bro. I'm glad I never got hit by you. My goodness.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good.
All right, I'll let you decide. You're our final guest of the week. Want the week to finish well. You want me to start with the absolute easiest question I have, or the absolute hardest?
Hardest, man. Let's go.
Hardest. Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. Why? You know that I support you. There are a couple times this year made it hard. Yeah. We can talk about the interception stuff. That is. I'll let James get into that. I'm gonna talk about the stuff I know a little better on. You gotta pick your battles better. Mm-hmm. Do you look back at any of the times, whether it was refs are against us, the tete-a-tete? Listen, I should be fighting with Tony Grossi, not you. Like those types of things, that there's an element of Baker's gonna be Baker, and there's an element of, okay, I gotta learn from this and mature a bit.
You're absolutely right. There is an element, and it's picking your battles. There are certain things, post game, the emotional stuff of saying about the refs and saying things like that. Yeah, I truly do regret that, because that's saying that I'm making excuses, and I'm not about that. I try and control what I can, and sometimes I put my own foot in my mouth, and I no longer leave it in my own hands. And so, but I truly believe I was brought to Cleveland because it's not, it wasn't the ideal scenario for everybody. It wasn't working well. And so I truly believe to get better, you have to have change, and you have to have somebody driving that. And right now we have a bunch of guys that we're all trying to get that figured out and go in the right direction. But I absolutely, it's a learning process. I've never had it all figured out, and I'm learning throughout this whole process.
To follow up there, one of the reasons that I've defended you when a lot of people have been coming at you is I feel like you have to have a certain mentality to be you with your story. You walk on one place, kick ass, say I'm going to go somewhere harder, you set the college efficiency record, then you win the Heisman. Then you're a fringe first-round pick. Okay, now you're the number 1 pick. And then you set the rookie touchdown record. At every step of the way, people have said, you've got to change, you've got to do something. And I would imagine in your head, every step of the way, you're like, no, doing it my way is what makes me me. This is the first bit of sports, I hate to say it, but failure you've had was this year. How has that changed your approach? I don't want to say humbled, but how have you dealt with that when you've been nothing but overachieving up to this point?
No, I know you didn't want to say humble, but it absolutely was humbling. The whole process of, losing. I haven't lost that many games in a season ever. I mean, throughout high school, throughout college, and I know that doesn't even compare to the NFL because it's a completely different business, but it was a humbling experience. And so getting into that, it changed it. And my mentality, I think I was focused on too many of the wrong things, the uncontrollables, instead of just working and doing me like I was. That's how I got here, is working on the things that I can control. And I think I was too worried about the outside, this opinion, that opinion. And so it's time to just put my head down and work.
You say humbling. I want to ask you a question about that. I'm a person, I was critical of some of the things you said. So looking back, what criticism do you feel was the most unfair, and what criticism do you feel was legit?
I can't say anything about the turnovers because turnovers are unacceptable in the NFL. You can't win when you turn the ball over as many times as I did. So that's completely fair. You can't win like that. But I play with emotion. I play with passion. But there's a certain way that I think it's unfair to say that I can't play like that because I've always done it.
To be honest with you, I have no problem with your play on the field, your emotions on the field. I'm talking about your posts, your interviews, how you walk away from things that you feel like is a stupid question or don't stand in and just answer it and keep it moving.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Cleveland interviewer that asked me a question and I walked away. Him and I have a very unique relationship, and so people take that one clip of me walking away from him but don't know the full story. But I can't expect people to know the full story. I can't expect that. So I got to know that. I got to learn from that. I got to stand there like a man every single time and answer it. And so that's the process of me realizing that everybody doesn't know why I'm wired like this, and so I have to handle everything a certain way, and that's the learning process.
Yeah, you led to the interceptions. You threw a lot of picks last year.
Yeah.
You had 27. You had 21 picks this year. Like, what do you think has led to the interceptions, and how do you fix that? Like, what is that? Is that a scheme, a coaching? Is it you? What's going on?
All of it pretty much falls back on me. It's communication with me and the receivers. It's timing of routes, making sure that we're all on the same page. That's what the offense is all about, is eliminating mistakes, stop hurting yourselves, and not getting behind the chains, because we didn't put ourselves in great scenarios this year. We had a great run game, but when we're turning the ball over in the air, it doesn't help. We got guys like Kareem and Nick Chubb. It's just, we got to help those guys out, got to help the O-line out. And that falls back on me, and that's my job to get everybody on the same page.
I think when a lot of people watched you early on, at least on Hard Knocks, we got a sense of this great young wide-eyed bravado that was coming in, that was going to just inject life into a Browns organization that hadn't had that a lot. And I think over the course of the last season and a half, I think a lot of people failed to maybe because you didn't get to where you wanted to get to in this past season, I think they thought maybe it was a knock on you. But I think what you're saying is maybe I was a little misunderstood. I think who I am is not exactly who always is portrayed when people watch me. Do you feel like you're misunderstood a little bit?
I wouldn't say misunderstood, because I try and put out exactly who I am. I don't try and put on any fronts, but I'd say that if you don't know my full story, like what I was saying about walking away from the reporter, it's going to seem a certain way.
Sure.
So it's a little bit, you got to get to know me a little bit.
Yeah.
Personal time away from the cameras. I truly believe I have a gravitating personality, and that's how I've gotten to where I'm at.
You ever seen Any Given Sunday? Do you remember it? Okay. Steaming Willie Beam, and he throws up, and they tell him, listen, if you're winning, everyone's going to start throwing up. If you're losing, people are going to say you can't handle the moment. There's an element of you're going to be you. You can clean up some of the stuff we're talking about. If you guys are winning, people will talk about that helping you guys, your personality, magnetic, leadership, all of that. So before we end Super Bowl week on a downside, how do you get back to being the Baker Mayfield that you've been every step of your career aside from this past season? What do you need to do?
Focus on the things that I can control. Work on my game, work on getting better as a quarterback, as a leader, getting around my guys, whatever happens to our team, our roster, getting around those guys very early on to where we feel like a unified group, and just getting better, like I said, on my own stuff. Not turning the ball over, taking care of that. I can't handle that stuff until season comes around. But I can work on scheme-wise, learning this new playbook with our new staff, and getting into that, diving into it to where when we report in April, it's go time.
You've been an underdog forever. This was the first year that I could remember. I guess maybe your last year at Oklahoma would be the other exception, where you guys, the team you're on was picked real high. I had you as a dark horse MVP. You now get back to a role maybe you're a little more comfortable in. People counting you out. People saying, it was 1 year wonder. Like, is that? I know you already, the chip on your shoulder almost knocked somebody over, so you've always had it. But does that maybe help propel you to year 3?
No, I can't worry about the outside opinion, and I think that's what happened last year. Is maybe digging into everybody patting you on the back. I can't focus on that. I have to do what I do, focus and work, put my head down, and that's the things that I can control.
Give us something to look forward to next year, real quick.
I'm excited about this new staff and where everything's headed. It's a new energy for us. We got a young group. We had a young group last year, but I'm excited where it's headed.
Baker,
Good
thank
luck,
you
bro.
so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.